All right, most of the SEC is in this predicament, looking for a quarterback, not an established one coming back from last season. And of course, for Mississippi State, they're saying goodbye to one of the best in school history in Dak Prescott. Mark Rogers TV and SEC Breakdown looking at the Mississippi State quarterback situation with four guys in play. And to help us sort this one out, Ethan Lee from For Whom the Cowbell Tolls on the SB Nation platform for the Bulldogs. Ethan, appreciate you jumping on board because there's no way I can tackle four quarterbacks. I don't know if Dan Mullen can tackle this situation at this point. So did we get any kind of indication based on what he had to say at SEC Media Days on what's going to be the bar and if anybody's got the lead at this point?
Getting into the quarterback situation, dealing with the SEC Media Day stuff, he mentioned briefly that it was still a four-guy race. So if anything, that just still leaves it wide open to interpretation of who's going to get it. A lot of the fans here think it's going to be Nick Fitzgerald, who is a redshirt sophomore, I guess 6'5", 230-pound build, really tall guy, really strong, has a great arm for throwing, very athletic, ran an option offense in high school. So a lot of people think that he's going to be the guy. But it really could be any of the four guys. They're all built for this offense. They're all built to run the spread in the SEC. There's not really a smaller guy. The smallest would be Damian Williams at 6'1". He's going to be a redshirt junior, but he's also 230 pounds. So he's built like an SEC running back, can run through SEC linebackers, can still throw the ball fairly well. And he has the most experience of the four quarterbacks. The other two guys who aren't getting as much attention would be Elijah Staley, who is also a redshirt sophomore, same as Nick Fitzgerald. He is 6'6", 240, 250, something like that. Really big guy, was playing on the MSU basketball team actually as a power forward, small forward, depending on the package occasionally. And so, he is the most athletic of the group. And a lot of people think that he could take the job, run with it, run a very fast offense through that. And then the fourth guy in the competition would be Nick Tiano. He's a freshman. Not many people were expecting him to be competing for the job, but he comes in, plays incredibly well during the spring, and really throws his name in the hat. And if I had to guess, I've been guessing this all along, from what I've seen so far, it would be Damian Williams as the day one starter. He's going to start against South Alabama. He's going to be starting the season. But by the time we head down to Death Valley to play LSU, I'm not certain that he is going to be the guy. I wouldn't be surprised to see Nick Fitzgerald be the starter at the end of the season.
Ethan, I am very surprised to hear you say that Damian Williams is going to get the start out of the gate. So do you think he's going to lose the job based on poor play, or do you think this is a plan from the get-go for whatever reason?
I think it's going to be, I think he's going to get the start by a technicality. Dan Mullen in previous years has run multiple quarterback systems to where he will pull a guy for different packages, different formations, different sets, and run different guys based on what he sees on the defense. He'll pull them out in the middle of a drive and switch them in. He's done it with previously Dak Prescott and Tyler Russell. Before that, it was Tyler Russell and Chris Relf. Depending on the situation, he's played different quarterbacks. So I think it'll be a split between all four guys in the first game, with Damian Williams being the guy in the first drive, just because of seniority. Dan has really put an emphasis on seniority in the past. So I think that'll be why. I just think by the time, because Damian Williams does have the most experience, but is, when Nick Fitzgerald came in, he came in as an early enrollee. He came in semester early, essentially. So he got to spend time in bowl practices before the Liberty Bowl against Rice. So he's had, one football season less worth of practices. But I think that can be made up, and I think he's right there neck and neck with Damian Williams. And I would expect him to just pull ahead the experience.
Yeah, you mentioned Russell, one of the more prolific passers in school history, pocket passer, and where I believe most of us got to see Damian Williams for the first time. This is the first time I remember him, was a road game against Arkansas. Russell got knocked out. Maybe somebody else got knocked out, and he led the Bulldogs to an overtime win against a winless Arkansas team. Winless in the SEC at that point. Turned out to be a pretty good football team. Nick Fitzgerald, big 6'5" guy. Obviously, he was the backup last year, but only threw 14 passes. So before I let you go, Ethan, I want you to give kind of put a stamp on Dak Prescott's impact on Mississippi State football. The guy threw 70 touchdowns. He ran for 44. Obviously, one of the better athletes and most prolific players in the history of the program.
In terms of touchdown-wise, he's up there with Peyton Manning, Tim Tebow. He's one of the best to ever touch the SEC. And he didn't have the supporting cast that Tim Tebow had. He did it with less talent around him. And just what he means to this program goes beyond what he did on the football field. He seemed to always go out of his way for fans, staying late after the practices to sign autographs with kids. I work with a professor here at Mississippi State, and one time his kids were in line at Chick-fil-A behind Dak Prescott. They were murmuring, "Oh, it's Dak Prescott," because that's what kids do. He comes around, turns around, and starts having a conversation with them, just open, honest, eager to talk with these kids. He didn't have to do that. And so just very high character guy. And then you see what he did on the field, just tears up the MSU record book, tears up the SEC record book. He is more than what he was on the field to this program. And I don't think many people will acknowledge that outside of Starkville.
Dak Prescott, definitely a high-class, high-quality guy on and off the field, and Mississippi State will, be hard-pressed to replace him amongst four guys when we talk Fitzgerald, Staley, Williams, and Tiano. It's going to be an interesting decision by Dan Mullen and his staff come August. Ethan Lee from For Whom the Cowbell Tolls, helping us out with Mississippi State's quarterback situation. Thanks so much, Ethan.
Thank you.